Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
My friends, here we are, Tuesday, the 17th day of September 2013. Paul Joseph Watson's going to pop in at the start of the next segment to give us his breakdown on the Navy Yard shooting yesterday that killed 13, including the shooter. And predictably, the Carnival Barker Carney has come out saying Obama is now going to implement his executive orders and go after our guns outside of Congress because he has the dictatorial moral authority to engage in criminal activity, penalizing people for what a clearly mentally ill person, now under psychiatric care, undoubtedly on psychotropics, and obsessed with playing violent shoot-'em-up games like Call of Duty. The type of drugs they're putting people on are in the hallucinogen class. And when you go then and play reportedly 15 hours a day, including not sleeping sometimes, so that he could play shoot-'em-up games while being under psychiatric care, while hearing voices in his head, and clearly mentally ill, and had legally registered firearms. See, when you actually have someone that's mentally ill and who shot up somebody's tires before and who shot through an apartment door or wall because the neighbors wouldn't shut up, never got in trouble because he was a government employee and out of his mind with a top-secret security clearance, who got through not one but two checkpoints, armed checkpoints, to get on one of the biggest naval bases in the United States in a secure area and shot and killed 12 people. And so I've got to lose my rights, Dianne Feinstein says, and I am collectively, and you as a gun owner are collectively guilty now for what this guy's done. You know who's collectively guilty? It is a pharmacological combine that in 1981, Eli Lilly got Prozac approved, and they knew it caused suicides in the studies and the test. And then the new drugs they have meant to fix the problems with Prozac, and I say that, you know, comically, but that's their words, are many times stronger and affect, in some cases, multiple base chemicals in the brain, and you get chemical imbalances, ladies and gentlemen. Now, some people can take it, and they say it helps them, but I know a lot of people that were normal till they took this stuff, and now they are crazy as a you-know-what rat. It's an old saying, a latrine rat, crazy as a a SH rat, a SH house rat. Well, that's what's going on. Happy drug Prozac. Yeah, there's a London Guardian. Happy drug Prozac can bring on impulse to suicide, study shows. Really? Oh, that was in 2000. Ladies and gentlemen, they knew this back in 1981. And yet again, there's a few mass shooting cases where they won't release the medical records. That's why Watson has an article out saying 90+% of mass shooters are on it. Ladies and gentlemen, they're all on it. And they're always obsessed with shoot-'em-up video games. Harrison Kleinbold, Kip Kinkle, Adam Lanza, Aaron Alexis, and the list goes on and on and on. You've got a few mass shootings where the people are postal workers or federal workers, and they're veterans, and they've got guns, and then it usually comes out they're on drugs too. And they put you on drugs that destroy impulse control. I mean, it has quite an effect on women from the statistics I've read, but that kind of ruins all the fun. Turns them into crazed sex zombies, basically. Men turns them into crazed killers. But you also got women chopping their babies' arms off, driving them off cliffs, drowning them routinely. And the cops always show up and know. Go to the medicine cabinet. They're going to be on a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. It's just well known. Well, you knew this was coming. Navy Yard gunman was treated for serious mental illness by the U.S. government and hearing voices. He'd shot out the tires of people's cars before, didn't get arrested, shot through his neighbor's wall because they wouldn't turn off the loud music, and played Call of Duty 15 hours a day. It's now also coming out that, minor footnote buried, friends said that he was mad about, well, racial discrimination against blacks. So this is clearly pointing towards the push towards race war in this country that's heavily underreported, that MSNBC and the Obama folks have been promoting to create balkanization and division. He claimed to have PTSD after rescuing victims of 9/11. Navy had not declared him mentally unfit. He was cited 8 times for misconduct, got honorable discharge. They first said dishonorable yesterday. Had secret clearance. The latest awarded Global War on Terrorism Service Medal. Carney, though, says that Obama will implement executive orders now that he already put in place, but now has the moral authority to take our guns. One rodeo clown teases Obama. All rodeo clowns have to pay for sensitivity training. Your neighbor does something wrong, you go to jail. That's the authoritarian way. He attended a Buddhist temple, the angry Buddhist. Navy is exploring base security measures. He went through armed security twice, had a security pass. Doesn't matter. Hundreds of armed troops, doesn't matter. All of us have to lose our rights now. Feinstein calls for new gun control laws. He entered with a shotgun, picked up weapons inside. Report, no AR-15 involved. Shotgun, 2 handguns. CNN still reporting it's an AR-15. The answer is take yours. Mass shootings fuel fear, account for fraction of murders. That's a Bloomberg article actually being honest. Last week, al-Qaeda called for small-scale attacks inside the United States, as we reported Friday. And D.C. Mayor blames the sequester, saying that they don't have enough money for security and other ridiculous garbage. That's some of the news up on drudgereport.com. Up on Infowars.com, D.C. Democrat Navy Yard shooting due to guns loose in society. We have that audio clip coming up. Also, AP published story day before Navy Yard shootings, debunked, not true. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Watson's video breaking that down. U.S. Navy Yard killer on antidepressant meds. Since Paul Watson wrote that this morning, it's been confirmed he was under Navy psychiatric care and was obviously on them, hearing voices. Washington Navy Yard gunman obsessed with violent video games. London Telegraph. That is just some of the news that we're going to be breaking down from Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com. James Wesley Rawles, expert on preparedness and geopolitics, will be joining us, dealing with the ongoing collapse of the dollar and other currencies worldwide with his world prospectus breakdown on what he believes is going to happen. Very smart guy. You don't want to miss this interview with the former high-level Army intelligence officer. Now, before we go any further, I want to be clear. With the authoritarian left that is not left, left and right wasn't discussed politically until 100 years ago. Left was associated with women and the devil. The right was concerned with masculinity and God. A little bit sexist, I know. But the point is, the left-hand path of Aleister Crowley, it was not political until the turn of the last century, a little over 100 years ago. If you want to call somebody a liberal, though, Thomas Jefferson was a liberal, and I want to be clear on that. These people are not liberals. We need to stop calling them liberals. They are like a disease of authoritarianism, and it is a war, so they call themselves progressives, when they actually want to progress their takeover while regressing your liberty, your freedom, and increasing taxes. So they like to regress the amount of money you keep for yourself and progress the amount of your money and labor they siphon off to themselves because they crave control-freak power. And the name of their game is collective guilt and shame. You notice Kerry said, you will support our attack on Syria, or every new attack and death is your fault. Hillary came out and said the same thing. Bill Clinton said the same thing. Carney said the same thing. They said after Sandy Hook, if you don't let us ban these guns, you're going to be responsible, gun owners, collectively, for any other deaths. Remember that over and over again. You are responsible. If a rodeo clown makes a joke, and by the way, I'd heard about it, looked it up, found online clips of people dressed up like Nixon back in the 70s at rodeo clown events. They always dress up like popular figures. That's a well-known skit. Point is, it doesn't matter if it was racist or something. It's that person's free speech. The point is that evidence is it wasn't. And I'm going to tie this into guns in a moment and go to Paul Watson. But the issue here is that they made every rodeo clown in the state go and take between $300 and $1,000. We looked up the price. Sensitivity courses that last, some of them, as much as 3 weekends. Most of them is just 2 weekends. So imagine going on your weekend for 8-hour courses every day and paying somebody $300, $500, in some cases $1,000, when rodeo clowns, by the way, aren't paid much. A lot of them are volunteer, especially at high school and county rodeos. All right? Been to a lot of them, obviously, growing up in Texas. Done a little bit of rodeoing myself, but not very good at it. I'll just leave it at that. But the point is that this is standard for anybody that knows rodeos. They not only blackballed that guy to where he couldn't have a job anymore in the state. Yeah, there it is. 2003, rodeo clown wears a Bush mask. Hilarious, funny, entertaining. Free speech, no outrage. 2013, rodeo clown wears an Obama mask. Outrageous, racist, criminal clown fired and banned for life. Feds investigating. And that's right. You can also pull up old film footage of a guy playing the part of Nixon, which was obviously anti-white. No, it wasn't, folks. It was anti-Nixon. And you lampoon public figures. That's part of being a public figure. I am lampooned everywhere. I quite frankly like it. But the issue I'm getting here is the essence of authoritarianism is in the old Soviet Union or in Nazi Germany or in Maoist China. You can look this up. If your neighbor got in a fight with a party official or didn't pay their tax or didn't show up to do compulsory public service, the whole neighborhood would be given double service. If somebody in a town shot at an SS officer or German soldiers, say in Poland or Ukraine, they would kill 10 or 15 people. If you killed an officer, they would kill hundreds. They would put them in churches and burn them down. If you killed a high-level officer, I forget his name, I think it was something Henrik, the Blonde Beast as he was known, deputy to Heinrich Himmler. Just got search engine, the Blonde Beast, Nazi. They killed, reportedly, a large portion of the town and burned it down when someone shot him. Was in some Eastern European country. I forgot. He was in an open car. I remember reading a book about it. The point is, yeah, there it is. Reinhard Heydrich. There you go. There he is. Now, the whole point is that this is what they do. This is the essence of tyranny, is to ignore the facts and individual rights. It's not my fault a guy illegally got a gun, tried 5 times, was on a bunch of SSRIs, played reportedly 20 hours a day of violent video games, and went and shot up Sandy Hook. It is not my fault the government's made that a gun-free zone and advertised it. There's logic. It is my responsibility to be armed, and because I'm armed and you're armed, there's been a 49% since 1992 to 2011, latest numbers, Justice Department numbers, in overall gun violence. Some numbers are over 60% to 75%, the LA Times reports, in gun violence in some areas of the country. But it's 49% nationwide. We've covered that ad nauseum. You can just type it into a search engine. You'll get Fox News, Associated Press, LA Times, you name it. Facts are stubborn things. So I am not responsible because other people do things. This was a super high security area. You had to go through 2 armed checkpoints to get to where he got. There were obviously guns that he had access to in the Marine Corps security area that he was working with a top secret security clearance. And then he goes in there and gets them. And reportedly now it's coming out in the London Telegraph as a footnote, told friends that he was mad at racist white people. Now, I don't know if that's true yet. We'll see, but it fits the bill. When you watch how incendiary, Django Unchained and MSNBC and Machete, and by the way, I've talked to people now two different ones that are very close to Robert Rodriguez. And plus, I've also seen this in the news. They're funding tens of millions of taxpayer money for these movies. It's not hundreds of millions for MSNBC or National Public Radio, folks. This is state-run media. They have a message of racial warfare in this country against whites to create the balkanization and bind people racially to the Democratic Party that was the party of the Ku Klux Klan until Christian whites reversed all that mainly. And then they still became the race party after the 60s, or in the 60s, when Republicans got the Civil Rights Act passed. They got wise and took over racial politics. Okay, and I'm not defending Abraham Lincoln and the Republicans. The point is it was Republicans that did all that. It always was. That shows the mind control hoax that we're under here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so there's the issue. Now it turns out he's under psychiatric care, mentally ill, working in a top secret thing, hearing voices. And he, one of the most secure places in the world, a military base in D.C., through 2 layers of security. He kills a bunch of people, and now I've got to lose my guns and you've got to lose your guns. Here's the moral, folks. Nobody's safe anywhere. The only answer is more guns to stop guys like this quicker. It's always in gun control zones, like federal reservations, that this happens. And then there's the drug issue. Right, Watson's with us this segment, a little bit of the next, joining us from the UK. Very, very sad what happened there at the base. Very, very sad that hundreds of thousands have been killed in Syria, that our government's funding al-Qaeda. By the way, Obama officially signed an order to overturn the federal law or to exempt himself against funding terrorists like al-Nusra, run by the head of al-Qaeda, so they can openly arm them. That's coming up. But I wanted to bring Paul Watson up because if you just joined us, Aaron Alexis, sounds like a fake name, doesn't it? Sounds like the opposite of Snake Plissken. Like Snake Plissken's supposed to, or Wolf Blitzer, another fake name, supposed to sound tough, but Aaron Alexis sounds the different. How about like Pansy Alexis? Okay, I'm being mean. The point here is this guy is on psychiatric drugs, psychiatric care. It's now all come out. Another video game head living in fantasy land, and got mad at a bunch of people and went and killed him. And now because he threw a fit, I've got to lose my guns in the authoritarian world. How about no, no, no? How about when you get rid of your bodyguards, Turdstein? How about when the rest of all the globalist scumbags, all behind armed guards? How about when you stop having armed guards for your kids, Obama? How about then? We know you want our guns to enslave us. And you're on notice, scum. What, al-Qaeda can have guns, but we can't? I got to pay for al-Qaeda to have guns with my tax money, but I can't have guns? Because you love criminals. This government loves any form of piratical, degenerate, larcenous, scumbag criminals. And they've got armies. Something like 20-something% of the military's on these psychotropics, and every time they go crazy and kill a bunch of people, their families, you name it, so they're always on these drugs. And then their answer is more drugs, more mental health screening, more drugs, more murders, more shootings. They're desperate to manufacture more shootings because all the other shootings are plunging, but actual mass shootings are actually up a little bit the last few years because so many people are on these drugs and the media hypes it. So every Fruit Loop goes, gee, I won't commit suicide. Those guys talk back to me at the base. I'm going to go shoot some cracker asses. I mean, what, is MSNBC going to come out and celebrate this and go, hey, well, maybe all the folks on Twitter, maybe this is a good thing. Maybe they deserve it, huh? According to the new Black Panther Party, maybe. Let's go to Paul Watson. Watson, break down your take on this and your articles that are up on Infowars.com. They're so important to get out there to counter all the lies and disinfo so people understand that this is the same old, same old. I know you're doing the nightly news tonight. We ought to show people that all these other big mass shooters, Harris, Klebold, Kip Kinkle, Adam Lanza, the list goes on and on. They're always on these drugs over and over and over again. But there's never a discussion about that, is there, Paul? And the insert says it can make you do this. It even says it'll do this. And it's not like we're reaching here, Watson. So what are you going to cover after we come back from break, Watson?
Exactly that. The fact that 90% of school shooters were on these drugs. You know, there have been dozens of massacres linked to them over the past 25 years. But the media refuses to cover it because they always run with this blame it on the guns narrative, which isn't even successful in achieving gun control. I mean, After Sandy Hook, gun sales shot to record highs. They were already high. AR-15 sales shot to record highs. So it doesn't even work, but they're still trying to push it, not to the same sustained level, but still it obfuscates the fact that SSRIs are completely ignored after every example of this. They don't want to talk about it.
And you add to this, he was video game obsessed when these games like Doom and were first developed to create instinctive shooting for the Pentagon. They're made to turn you into a killing machine, just a fact.
People don't want to hear that, though, Alex. I mean, I posted that on your Facebook, and the reaction was the heat that you get for saying that is intense. So we need to talk about that as well. Because
no, let's not talk about that. Let's just turn in our real guns so all these guys living in their mom's basements can play 50 hours of video games a week, and then I lose my guns. Look, I'm not saying get rid of your video games, folks. The point is mentally ill people, it turns them into killers.
On the march. The empire's on the
War on Corruption, Monday through Friday, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. Back 7 o'clock weeknights, InfoWars Nightly News. Find showtimes, details, and excerpts of the transmissions at prisonplanet.tv. The main news site's InfoWars.com, and its backup auxiliary, its consort, prisonplanet.com. And joining us from London, England, is Paul Joseph Watson. Now, I want to be clear. All the normal White House talking point publications, which we welcome, because actually their listeners come to us and find out the truth. All of those different publications out there, like Raw Story, Salon, Media Matters, openly run by the White House in that case, came out and misrepresented what I said yesterday. I said, if it turns out this is a terror attack, I said it could be a lone gunman going postal, probably on psychotropics as usual, video game nut. It's not a hard prediction. That's usually what it is. Or it's going to be some type of al-Qaeda operative following the orders of the head of al-Qaeda, who just so happens to be armed by the U.S., Zawahiri, attacking us. And then, like the Boston bombing, they'll try to connect it to me, which they did do. And they've done that with a bunch of other shootings and events. And I gave examples of that, and I said, I hope they don't do that, but they could. That turned into, I predicted they would blame us for this. No, we didn't do that. They take everything out of context to lie to their viewers and lie to their readers, and it's not working anymore. I saw the comments on the articles, people, about half of them saying, well, they did stage Gulf of Tonkin, they did stage the chemical attacks in Syria. They're lying all the time. You know, Obama is even worse than Bush. He's getting away with it all. I'm a liberal, and I agree with Alex Jones. People understand what's going on now. They're awake. Now, in most of these cases, they're on the psychotropics, which are in the mind control hallucinogenic class. Get the insert to the more than 50 different type of psychotropics. And, Paul, you have the article of the type that he was probably on. They admit he was in psychiatric care, hearing voices. They're trying to get his file right now. But when I heard about Sergeant Bales going out and killing a bunch of people in a blackout, turned out he was under psychiatric care and on drugs. But it always comes out weeks later. This is coming out now very quickly. The drugs, the video games. It's a fact that these games are there to basically condition people to instinctively shoot. That's what they were invented for. We're not saying that they should be banned. But obviously, if you've got a neighbor that's already shot up people's tires, if you've got a neighbor who's shot through somebody's wall, he's mentally ill, why did he have a top secret security clearance? How did he get into a gun-free zone to do this? Again, it's always in these gun-free zones where only the MPs have it, or only the police have guns, the public schools, that this happens. Can't we see a pattern here, Paul Watson?
Well, let's start off with the drugs, Alex. We know he was being treated by the VA for, quote, mental problems, paranoia, sleep disorder, and hearing voices in his head since August. We know that he had problems with post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of helping the victims of 9/11. The most common treatment for that is an SSRI drug called paroxetine, which also is listed by the Institute for Safe Medication Practices as the number 3 top violence-causing psychotropic drug. So he was probably on that or one of its derivatives. We also know, as he said, that he had blackouts during these fits of rage where he couldn't remember the incident. That's another classic side effect of psychiatric drugs. We also know that Alexis had anger management issues. And again, that paroxetine SSRI drug, as well as Prozac and Zoloft, are routinely used to treat anger management issues. So it's almost certain he was on SSRI drugs. Now, it took 9 months to confirm that the Batman shooter, James Holmes, was on Zoloft, because they found medication in his home. We found out about that days afterwards, but for 9 months they sat on it and refused to tell anybody what medication he was on. And it was Zoloft, which was the same drug that Eric Harris was on before his massacre at Columbine. And again, this takes so long to come out because the mainstream media does not pursue the connection between psychiatric drugs and mass shooters. They're obsessed with linking it to guns, when in fact gun homicides in the US are down 49% since 1993, according to the government's own numbers. And so they spend all day obsessing on that because of this preset agenda to gun grab, and in the process completely ignore the direct connection between mass shooters and psychiatric drugs. Because 90%, as I said, 90% of school shooters were on these drugs.
And that's conservative. I mean, last year, maybe it was earlier this year, a guy shot a cop at Walmart, a guy with no criminal record did, and his roommate said, no, he takes Xanax and Paxil and drinks and blacks out for a day and disappears. I mean, no wonder you put people on these hardcore drugs, you're going to have them kill people. The insert says it. I mean, the minute I heard, like a zombie, he just shoots a cop for no reason, killing the cop, ruining his life, but they still charged him with murder and all this. And I'm not saying he shouldn't be charged with something, but you can't charge these military guys that black out and go kill people. They're trained killers. You put them on psychotropics. Fourth tour, Sergeant Bales goes and kills 16 people. I mean, what do you think they're going to do, ladies and gentlemen? It's involuntary insanity.
And every single year, as I document in this report, more and more Americans are going on these psychiatric drugs. So we're only going to see these mania incidents, these violent outbursts on a more frequent basis. And I list some of the other mass shooters in the article: Kip Kinkle, Christopher Pittman, Elizabeth Bush, Jason Hoffman, Sean Cooper, TJ Solomon, the Virginia Tech shooter. Those are just a handful of the dozens of mass shooters that have been on these drugs over the past 25 years. You've got experts speaking out on it, such as the National Institute of Mental Health, Dr. Peter Breggin. He's testified in over 100 trials about the clear connection between psychiatric drugs and outbursts of violence. He says there's a definite relationship. Again, it's only like us reporting on it, and Scientologists, they're the only people that dare touch it, even though it's a proven connection. Mainstream media won't go anywhere near it.
Well, Paul Watson, you add this with the video game Doom, on record developed by the Pentagon to create instinctive shooting. Instead of having paper targets where the bad guy pops up next to the lady with the baby, they started creating these video games in the 60s and 70s and now 80s, and it's all been adopted on record. I know you're doing the nightly news tonight. You should go back and show the history of shoot-'em-up video games being developed by the Pentagon, because the public just thinks we're just saying that. They don't know this is a fact. And sure, the average person can go play a shoot-'em-up video game. The average person can do something like that and not go out and be a killer. But you take some unstable person who plays these 15 hours a day, who's got PTSD, they claim, and then you add that they're taught that, you know, whites are all racist and out to get them. That's a major thread now developing that he reportedly told friends he was sick of all the racist white people and racial discrimination. So watch this unfold now of a mentally ill person who was probably an MSNBC viewer and just decided it was time to play video games for real.
Well, on the video games connection, you know, we had it with Breivik in Norway. We had it with Harrison Kleinbold, obviously Adam Lanza as well. He was an obsessive video gamer. Now this guy, I think there's a clear connection between already unstable people that are taking these SSRI drugs and these shoot-'em-up video games. If you're talking about video games in general, and this is why people react so negatively to it, the studies show there's no link between general violence in society and video games. There's not been a lot of research on it, but there's been basically no research on already unstable people playing video games, which is what you alluded to with the Pentagon training and outbursts of violence. But even if you present that as a question that should be investigated, the backlash is just horrific. It's like a hot potato, because even amongst your listeners, it's like with this Grand Theft Auto 5 craze at the moment, video games are basically a religion to a lot of people, and they will defend them to their death against anything. But, you know, this guy was playing Call of Duty 16 hours a day. How can that be healthy for anyone? Then on top of that, you've got, you know, childhood obesity through the roof. You've got kids growing up with less and less social skills. It's not healthy in a physical sense. It's not healthy for society. But people will defend video games until they're blue in the face, because it's a religion to them.
Well, that's right. People say, oh, tolerance means you've got to adopt my views and what I do. No, tolerance means you can play your video games all day. I occasionally go to a pinball arcade or a regular, you know, arcade and play some games with my kids and play foosball and, you know, then go bowling or something. They have those places where the bowling and the video games are all in one place with the laser tag and everything else. I'm not judging people that play games. They immediately go, how dare you say I'm going to kill people because I play shoot-'em-up games? It's a fact. The Pentagon invented video games in the 60s, on record. It's a fact that they're funding the development of most of the major shoot-'em-up games. We just showed, what, ABC News and NBC News on screen for TV viewers admitting it, because it also conditions everybody. It also conditions the public to where when you go join the military, it makes you want to join the military, A, but B, it then makes you simulate being killed over and over again and killing others and learning battle formations and learning how to use the same controllers they use on games are the same ones in the drones, the same ones on the ground control systems with satellite overlays and drone overlays. So it is literally like The Last Starfighter, where you're being trained to be a starfighter with the video game, but that isn't life imitating art. That was already the plan before movies like that came out. They were using video games to train and test and condition people to prepare them for battle. And they found video games have made people have more courage as well. Because at the base, you're playing Call of Duty, and then later you're deployed really being shot at, but you've simulated this so much, you've now been acclimated. So it's really a high-tech form of brainwashing, Paul Watson.
Well, that's why the Army works with both video game developers and Hollywood, because it desensitizes people to the violence. It's one of the best recruiting tools they could hope for. But I've had arguments with people until I'm blue in the face about video games. People saying, oh, it increases mental acuity if you play these games for so many hours. It makes your brain sharper. It makes your reactions quicker. And that may be the case, but what is the use of that? If you've wasted half the day playing video games, what are you then going to apply it to? To me, it seems like a colossal waste of time. Like you said, I understand people need to relax. They need to switch off. They need to have fun. But if you're talking about a guy playing Call of Duty 16 hours a day, I mean, that's too much. Come on.
Well, you see people, especially in South Korea and Japan, dying after playing 2-3 days in a row, drinking 14, 15 Coca-Colas and having a heart attack. I mean, those are common cases. And you've got the flicker rate. You've got the kids having convulsions over the Pokemon cartoon. We are being plugged into the matrix. Our eyes are electrochemically connecting to the television, and we are being programmed. And actually, there's major studies out showing long-term video game playing lowers cognitive ability, lowers brain waves, just as television does. They're both connected to early onset of neurological disorders. In fact, there's a headline: video games do alter your brain, and the effect is visible in MRI scans in just a week. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. These are people living out simulations. I know people that play all these simulator games where they spend money on a Lamborghini Countach. They spend money on a model girlfriend. They could actually go out to the grocery store and tell jokes and flirt with 20 good-looking women and actually get married and have the beautiful, smart wife. Instead, they've got the imaginary wife in the imaginary world when there's a real world going on around us. And the globalists said that in Wired magazine back in April of 2000. Bill Joy went to that meeting with 200 top tech owners, the owner of Sun Microsystems, and he wrote, he said, look, we had a debate. Do we let you play video games and not matter, or do we get rid of all of you so you don't waste resources? And the fact is, you're not living a life worth living, so we're going to let the simulators get you ready to stand down and die. So these simulators are here to get us out of reality into false reality so we don't recognize the real enemies creeping up on us, the chemical warfare, the biological warfare, and the GMO. Here's what I want to tell young people. You're in a real live video game on a deep space planetoid orbiting a sun. I'm going to try to explain this. With a very thin atmosphere on it, with huge seas, with giant mammals and fish swimming in it, and a moon orbiting our planet, and you had all these ancestors and all the stuff they went through, and there's all this science and beauty and technology and literature all around you, and you're squatting in your apartment or in your house playing these games and getting into it and only having people that you know and interact with in this fantasy world instead of living in the real world. And the globalists designed it to suck you in and destroy you. Now, does that mean that some of you can drink and not become alcoholics? Does that mean some of you can, get into boxing and not get brain damaged? Maybe. I mean, does that mean that some of you can play these games and not have the desired effect work on you? Maybe. But just, because I talk to video game heads, they go, I don't want to hear it. No, you just don't know. You know, I do know. I do know. I do know. Okay? And so understand, you are under attack. You're in a real high-tech battle space right now with globalist technocrats trying to break up our families, take our guns, shut down our society. There's about to be thousands of people with an armed march on the Alamo. The police say they're going to come after them even though it's legal. I mean, the real world's going on. World War III has almost started. More Russian ships are massing. Israel's now backing attacks on Assad publicly. All hell's getting ready to break loose. The dollar's teetering on the edge of collapse, and the globalists can only get away with this because you're focused on fantasy land. And I need people to at least spend 15 hours a week for liberty. If you can spend 15 hours a day playing Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto or all these games where you can be the bad guy, you can be the cool guy, you can be the champion, you can be the warrior, you can be the cutting edge, you can be the trailblazer, you can be the freebooter, you can be the race car driver. Ladies and gentlemen, the real world's going on. We need you in the fight against the globalist in this dimension, not in cyberspace. Closing comments, Paul Watson.
Well, the real world is more fascinating than any video game, Alex. They call video games an art form. I accept that, but I wouldn't go and stare at a painting for 16 hours straight. You know, it's everything in moderation. There are people being attacked over Grand Theft Auto 5 games that they've just purchased. It's getting to this mindless zombie level, and it's just becoming a massive distraction, like you said.
It's a drug. Paul Watson will follow all your breakdowns at Infowars.com. And we'll follow you at Twitter, where you help tweet at Real Alex Jones. And we'll follow you tonight on the Nightly News, 7 o'clock Central, Prisonplanet.tv.
Ceramic body armor.
You know, when I snuck into Bohemian Grove 13 years ago, the only person to ever get in and out successfully with film footage up until that time, a couple others have now, and they've been arrested. By the grace of God, I've been protected, and that's the only thing we can chalk it up to. When I had 4 guys, actually 5 guys, but 4 of them attacked me, telling me to shut up, and they've been sent by the federal government to beat me up. That wasn't a video game. That was the real deal. And as soon as they started landing punches on me, you know, I was able to wake up and able to help them get their heads handed to them. Doesn't mean I didn't have blood splattering everywhere and a broken nose and cut above my eye and everything else. Mike Hansen came out after that. But they were having to help themselves into the Astro van. And the whole point about this is, I'm not bragging, telling those type of stories. I could tell you hundreds of incredible adventures we've been in. Many of them I can't even tell you on air because they were in confidence. But I'm not playing any silly video games as my fantasy world. I go play video games maybe once a month at an arcade or something with my children. It's fun. It's a novelty. And I'm not in some war against video games. But I am in a war against fantasy land when it superimposes itself on reality. And the average adult male in this country, I saw a statistic, plays something like 4 hours of video games a day on top of 4 hours or more of TV. 8 hours a day. You're not hiking. You're not hanging out with friends. You're not playing soccer. You're not playing Frisbee. You're not swimming. You're not playing pool. You're not playing basketball. You're playing video games, which are a conduit of programming and brainwashing. And I know there are a lot of video game makers that have put me in their video games. I've been in quite a few video games. I've actually signed quite a few contracts to be in video games. My voice and stuff, I never even went and watched myself in them, but I'm told I'm in quite a few big video games. And so I'm not even attacking those people. I'm just saying you need to be made aware of it. And I'm not trying to go off into some long story, you know, about I've done all this and you ought to come do that. It's that so many times people say, I can't believe you've been successful. You can't be real. You must be controlled. I can't believe you did this or you did that. I can't believe you got that interview. I can't believe you ran into David Gergen on the side of the road. Well, it was at the RNC at the entrance. We waited there. It's like somebody saying, I can't believe a barracuda waited outside a undersea cave and ate a fish that came out. Can't believe I went and shot a deer on the opening day. I know where to go hunt to shoot deer. I mean, I can't believe Alex shot a deer. How do you know? Well, I went out where the deer are at. How'd I confront this politician or that one? Well, they had a book signing. We went to it. I mean, it's like, how'd they get that big guest on? Well, they had a book come out and we called their publicist. It's like, I run into the general public and they're paralyzed, not believing anyone could ever do anything. When you have power is what I'm saying. You can affect history. Look at my reporters. Most of them never even had a reporter job before. And they're suddenly making national news on a routine basis, going out and doing it. I'm not a big fan of Chinese slave-made Nikes. They do have some good products, but my point is, I'm not a fan of that, but I am a fan of their slogan, just do it. That's what Yoda says, folks. Do or do not. Don't try. And we need to stop all this, folks. We need to decide liberty can win. We need to decide our ideas are better than the globalist. We need to decide we can turn society and civilization around. We need to decide. And you need to decide to support us, the tip of the spear. Become a Prisonplanet.tv member to see the nightly news, all the films, and so much more. One membership is 11 memberships to share with your friends and family. $5.95 a month. Prisonplanet.tv, and get the films, the T-shirts, and so much more at InfoWarsStore.com. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now into hour number 2. And one of my favorite guests, he's so informative. I heard him on Coast to Coast AM about a month ago, and I said, man, we got to get him on. Just amazing analysis. Jim Rawles is going to be joining us. James Wesley Rawles, best-selling author. He writes fiction and nonfiction. He's probably one of the top 2 or 3 real survivalist gurus out there with his different redoubt strategy and more. He's going to be joining us. Coming on the broadcast in the next segment. And I haven't gotten to all the other news. If you just joined us here in the second hour, there's a lot of medical news. Gonorrhea among drug-resistant germs, sickening millions. And they're basically admitting that antibiotics aren't working across the board anymore. And that's a shame because antibiotics have been an amazing technology. The problem is they've been overprescribed. I get so upset when I have friends and family that are sick and they go to a doctor or a clinic and they give them antibiotics and I go, did you get a swab test to see if it was a virus? Because if it is, you need an antiviral. This is not going to do anything. And I mean, I'll tell them, I'll say, you ought to go back and ask, and they'll go back and go, oh yeah, that takes about 5 hours. We'll do that test for you. And it's like, more and more clinics are doing it just out of hand because they really shouldn't give you anything until you've had the culture done. It's very, very inexpensive. They can look under a microscope or they can, just put it on a Petri dish and then grow it and then look at it under a microscope. But that takes a little bit longer. I'm now kind of digressing. I just saw this Bloomberg headline here. Gonorrhea among drug-resistant germs sickening millions. Yeah, well, sexual promiscuity is really exploded. People are getting that cat scratch fever. And a series of bomb scares has Staten Island residents on edge. Every time they're trying to sell robots to a local town for millions of dollars to disarm bombs, there's always a bunch of bomb threats. Gee, wonder who's calling in the bomb threat. Also, South Florida doctor uses new technology to regrow man's finger. That's CBS News. A lot of really amazing stuff we're going to get into. Larry Summers is out, but they're bringing in another globalist to try to head up the private Federal Reserve. And we're also going to be getting into Obama waves ban on arming terrorists to allow aid to Syrian opposition. And Chinese Communist parties cracking down on more free speech over there, just like our government's trying to warm up to do. So we're going to look at some of that news coming up. Also, the embattled Syria expert Elizabeth Obagi says she's made many mistakes. That's the Daily Beast White House-run whitewash on the woman who was the Syria expert, who it turns out was not a doctor and it was all fake and just completely made up. Hey, but if a pretty face gets... why not have the daughter of the Iraqi incubator story? You know, she was like 13 back when she lied to send us to war in 1990. The daughter of the ambassador hadn't even been to Kuwait since she was a baby. It was all lies. Why? I bet she's like 30-something years old now. Why don't we get her and just have her be the Syria expert? I mean, why not? They've had a UN report come out today saying they believe chemical weapons were used. No one denied that. And that they think the Syrian government did it. Oh, isn't that cute? But we've got 14 other times the UN has said they thought it was others, including the rebels. So why would Assad do something that elicits an attack on himself? Just thought I'd throw that in there. By the way, I've seen on the Disinfo White House talking point sites out there this line of, how dare you, Alex, say there wasn't a shooting? I had friends that were there. We never said there wasn't a shooting. We never said there wasn't a chemical attack. I mean, you see how they prey on their audience, and you read these articles where they say I'm saying there was not a real attack or whatever. That's preying on these audiences. These people are being preyed on. But a lot of the comments, there's more news out today, are actually government sock puppets. They're fake. Well, there's always a fog of the crisis yesterday. And we said it could be Islamic extremists because the head of al-Qaeda called for mass shootings in the United States last Friday. We covered that. I said it could be somebody going postal on the Prozac class of drugs. Or I said it could be a false flag. I mean, they've staged them before. It could be. It has all the hallmarks of a guy that played 16 hours. I'm sorry, it's not 15. 16 hours a day. I was saying 15. Of Call of Duty. Those games designed to create instinctive shooting and to desensitize you to kill. The first video games were developed for that. And he was under Pentagon psychiatric care, hearing voices, and now reportedly on unnamed psychotropic antipsychotics, which actually cause you to go more psychotic in many cases. So there you go. But instead, we are hearing Jay Carney saying Obama will now move with the executive orders he's already signed. He has the moral high ground to take our guns. Even though it was a highly secure facility, he had a secret clearance. He went through 2 checkpoints in a gun-free area where only MPs had guns to then get to, it looks like Marine Corps stowed weapons that were locked to begin attacking everybody. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. The most secure places in the world, and that's where you have the mass shootings going on. Gun-free public schools, gun-free colleges, movie theaters where they know you're disarmed, military bases. The answer is 49% overall drop in gun violence since 1992, Justice Department numbers. More guns, less crime. But under the conditioning, under modern mind control, the LA Times reports people believe there is an epidemic of shootings. And here is Jay Carney saying Obama will now move on our guns with executive action.
As the president said, our thoughts and prayers are with the families of victims and the victims themselves of the shooting in Washington. This is an unfolding event, so I will not have any specifics for you, except to echo what the president said, which is that we expect seamless cooperation between federal and local and military officials as this situation unfolds. This is an active investigation and an active situation, and we have no information to share with you from here, I would ask you to direct questions like that to law enforcement authorities who are on the ground and on the scene investigating this matter.
No doubt this incident, as others have, will likely restart debate over gun violence. I wonder where the president stands on that vis-a-vis this incident.
Well, this is an ongoing situation, and we don't have all the facts, so it's hard to comment specifically on this situation in that regard. What is true is certainly that the president supports, as do an overwhelming majority of Americans, common sense measures to reduce gun violence, and we have gone about implementing the executive actions that were part of the president's plan to take action to reduce gun violence, and obviously he continues to support measures taken by Congress that could be taken by Congress to reduce gun violence in a common sense way, like improving our background check system.
Now, the president on Sunday, when we played this clip yesterday, he went on Meet the Press with George Stephanopoulos and said 80 to 90%, this is a quote, of Americans support the gun bill, and that if Boehner would support it, they have the votes in the House. That on record is a complete lie. And the numbers were closer to 70% against it, and that was all on record. So they flip or invert reality. And I'm seeing an intensification of the inversion of reality here, where you've got somebody trained by the military to kill, on a bunch of drugs, playing shoot-'em-up games 16 hours a day, and reportedly, we have an article coming out in just a few minutes on this that Anthony Gucciardi is working on. Buried in multiple news articles are friends saying he was mad at racial discrimination. This is a guy that shot up his friend's tires, shot through the wall at a woman who had music too loud, never gotten in trouble for this. So the president's saying, take everybody's rights away. How about you enforce gun laws? 2 times shooting up people's belongings, hearing voices, has a secret security clearance. This is the type of screwed up person that fills up the federal government now. They're hiring felons by the thousands. They're hiring felons as police now. Folks, this is on purpose. Hitler, Stalin, Mao, they all hired criminals out of the jails. And then you've got this news. We're going to go to our guest. We've got this news. Obama waives ban on arming terrorists to allow aid to Syrian opposition. The Washington Examiner reports, it's also in AP, so they can arm al-Nusra and others run by the head of al-Qaeda. I mean, that is the inversion of reality right there. I mean, in public shift, Israel calls for Assad's fall, admits, this is in Reuters, that al-Qaeda rebels, this is a quote, are better than Assad. So Israel's been, along with Turkey, Saudi Arabia, NATO, France, big time behind this for a while. Now they're public. And Israel's already bombed the country multiple times. Doesn't matter if you don't like Assad. He wasn't attacking you. Under common law, common sense, you don't start wars with people. And I'm not anti-Israel, folks. Everybody knows this. I'm really upset by this. I am really upset by this. And they've got 11 ships now, Russian Mediterranean fleet, to be expanded to 11 warships, including multiple carrier killers. Now, that's RT reporting that. That's state-run media reporting that out of Russia. Yes, we can. Obama waives the anti-terrorism provision to arm Syrian rebels. There it is. UN investigating 14 different chemical weapons attacks in Syria by the rebels. But now the UN comes out and says they think Assad was behind the last attack. So that's just some of the amazing news we've got. We're joined for the balance of the hour by a very busy man. He's written a bunch of best-selling fiction novels that I actually have read because they're so real life. He can say things in those he can't say in his he can say things in his fiction he can't say in his nonfiction. He's written nonfiction and fiction. Survivalblog.com. He's probably the #1. He's in the top 2 survivalist experts in the United States. And he is an enthusiastic survivalist since his teenage years. He's a best-selling author and lecturer. His face hasn't been seen for years. We got an old photo of him. He likes to not even be known for his security. He's a Bachelor of Arts degree from San Jose State University and minor degrees in military science, history, and military history. Former U.S. Army intelligence officer who held top secret security clearance. I won't go into his whole background. And he joins us to talk about the state of the dollar, geopolitically, the state of the world for the first 15 minutes, sir. And then I want to get into how we individually can really get prepared and what you think is really coming. Because government, as you know, is digging in like it's the end of the world while criticizing people that try to get prepared. They're now openly bad-mouthing the Founding Fathers, saying George Washington, the founder of the U.S. Army, would not be welcome in today's Army. That's now official. First off, before we get into geopolitics, what do you make of the otherworldliness of how bizarre it's getting and the collapse in confidence in the system we're seeing? I find that encouraging, but it also concerns me of how the empire is going to strike back. Again, Jim Rawles, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Alex. I agree. We are living in a very strange time. I like to refer to this current era as the age of deception and betrayal. And the amount of betrayal is now just absolutely palpable. If you look at what's going on with the NSA scandal, with the IRS scandal, and the way that Benghazi was handled, the absolutely surreal approach that the administration is taking toward prosecuting a war on Syria, we're living in very strange and very dangerous times. And I think it's very important that families get themselves prepared.
What do you think's happening with the establishment? I mean, have they gone a bridge too far? Have they reached too far? Because everything they're doing is disintegrating.
Well, yeah, I think they've definitely gone too far. There's going to be a huge backlash in the midterm elections. And then in the next round of elections, we could see a major power shift in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, though, as you know, the Republican Party isn't too much better than the Democrat Party in terms of the direction this nation is headed. That the Republicans seem to be in just less of a hurry. But I do have hope that there'll be a considerable political backlash, that there'll be a groundswell of conservative and libertarian feeling in this country, and that we'll see some of these rascals thrown out of office. In the meantime, however, I think we're in for some very traumatic times economically.
We're going to break in 2 minutes. We're going to come back and give you really the floor for the balance of the hour, because there's so much I want you to be able to go over. The same info I've heard you cover on Coast to Coast. I heard an interview about a month ago. It was just incredible, the insight. But briefly, in the 2 minutes we've got, the Syria situation, what's really happening there? What do you expect to unfold?
Well, it's very difficult to see what's going to happen in Syria. Obviously, Obama's support in the international community is pretty well fallen apart. When the United Kingdom backed off, I think that was indicative that he does not have the support he's going to need. I don't believe that there's going to be any ground war in Syria in the foreseeable future, but I think there very well could be a limited air campaign. And that, of course, given the density of Syrian air defense, both anti-aircraft guns and missiles, could result in the shoot down of several American fighters and bombers, and we could end up with the spectacle of American prisoners of war, and we've seen what's happened with Israel in that regard.
But Obama knows that will actually unify people behind him when we see the pilots being paraded around on television.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to see that either, but when you look at Obama's agenda, he really needs some sort of major sideshow going on to deflect American attention.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think they actually want it. Stay there. We're going to come right back. They need it for the 7 scandals to shift gears into what's currently happening economically. What's happening while we're busy watching Syria?
Turn your food waste into fertilizer. That's right.
By the way, folks, Alex Jones here, back live. When this comes out on audiobook, October 1st, I'm downloading it to my iPhone so I can listen when I go out jogging and stuff, because he is a great writer. He's written a bunch of top New York Times bestsellers on the liberty movement, predicting what would happen in America, and so much of it is now unfolded. His new book, that's why I hadn't been able to come on with us the last few months, is coming out October 1st. It's Expatriates, a novel of the coming global collapse. In the latest survival thriller from founder of survivalblog.com, the New York Times bestselling author, James Wesley Rawles. By the way, we're going to carry this book at InfoWarsStore.com. 2 expat families struggle for their very survival in the midst of a global economic collapse. And we're going to get into a little foreview of this coming out in the next segment. This is a short segment. Jim, get into now why you're so concerned about the economy, the dollar, the West bullying its big debt holders. Where are we right now historically?
Well, we're definitely at a pivot point, Alex. There's talk that's been going on in Washington, D.C. for the last 4 or 5 months about tapering the government from essentially their crack addiction. They're addicted to quantitative easing. They've been buying up collateralized debt obligations, which are derivatives, to the tune of $70 billion a month in, month out, relentlessly. And again, I liken this to crack cocaine. It's absolutely addictive for the government. And they may talk about tapering themselves from this, but like your local crackhead, he's about as likely to give up his habit as Ben Bernanke is to give up his. We're not going to see it happen. They may actually try to taper, but I think what will happen is they'll very quickly backpedal when they see what happens to interest rates. If they attempt to taper from quantitative easing now, I think it's going to absolutely crash the bond market. Interest rates are going to go through the roof, and we'll see perhaps another global credit collapse that's similar to what happened in 2008, 2009. So watch interest rates very carefully. Watch for announcements on tapering of quantitative easing. That is our key indicator right now of the direction the economy is going to head. But regardless, I think we're going to see higher interest rates because as America's, the federal government's spending continues to be completely out of control. They're having to borrow more and more money. A larger percentage of the budget each year goes toward interest on the national debt. And at some point, the lenders in this equation are going to throw up their hands and say, well, if we're going to buy your lousy treasury paper, we're going to need a higher rate of return on it. And that's what's going to push up interest rates. And that's what is inevitably going to shut down the false recovery that we're currently in.
And we're already seeing Moody's and other groups begin to downgrade the United States. And it's the very same globalists that want to get even higher rates from the U.S. that are going to be the ones that destroy their own global power, because even though it's a combine, they don't act in exact synchronicity. And so I think it's their greed that's going to end up being their own undoing.
That's right, Alex. That as interest rates go up, they're going to start a snowballing effect that they won't be able to stop. And they're going to be hoisted by their own petard. There'll be as interest rates ratchet up, it's going to shut down the American real estate markets, both commercial and residential. And basically anyone who has any job that's associated with mortgages or with the building industry is probably going to be out of work this time next year. And that's regardless of tapering from quantitative easing, because interest rates are going to creep up all by themselves regardless of that.
Well, that's what I'm hearing from the establishment, and we've already seen interest rates go up, even though technically they haven't. We already see interest rates in the real market going up. Just like physical gold, many places people can't even buy it for what the supposed prices are. The paper artificial suppression of economic reality is beginning to basically fray at the ends.
Yes, it is. And if you look at the global derivatives market, most of that has built up in just the last 10 years. In fact, the majority of it since 2008. And it's all predicated upon very small movements in interest rates. We're talking 1 or 2 basis points, which is, 100 points per percentage point of interest.
All right, James
rate.
Wesley Rawles, stay there. We're going to come back to you. I want to look at different scenarios and what you think statistically is more probable.
We're on the march. The Empire.
I want to get him back on in October when his book's actually out. James Wesley Rawles is our guest. But what he's breaking down, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, is a certainty in the future. I don't even know if there's a way to reverse this, even if the establishment wanted to. We'll ask him that question in a moment. There's a lot of different scenarios, but they run from bad to worse. The good news is we're getting prepared. Homeland Security is gearing up for war with the American people. And that's the biggest indicator there of the economic facts. And they've got a lot of tricks up their sleeves to keep pushing this off. They wanted the power through economic fraud to take over, but to do that, they had to destroy the system. And they rationalized that, well, that would be their excuse to just get more power. But in truth, it's going to cause a rebellion. And we'll be discussing that with Mr. Rawles here in just a moment. First off, this is a listener-supported broadcast. And so we carry the very best products, books, videos, T-shirts, ProPure, and other water filtration systems at the lowest prices at InfoWarsStore.com in a win-win scenario. I reap what I sow, folks. I believe in win-win, and so I find the best products that I use, the best books, films, materials to wake people up, the best preparedness products, shortwave radios, so much more, cook stoves, you name it. InfoWarsStore.com, the seed center with the widest selection out there at the lowest price of non-GMO, non-hybrid, open-pollinated seeds. It's all there at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139. You can also find the incredible energy drink, and there's not any caffeine in it. It's 20 superfoods. Inner food at the lowest prices at InfoWarsStore.com. The Metaphyllin Southern Hemisphere seaweed that's so good for detoxifying the body. All of it, just hundreds and hundreds of great products that I personally use at InfoWarsStore.com. And we're not like MSNBC that gets stimulus money or NPR, but that's nothing, folks. Billions go to Hollywood, the video game makers on record to put out anti-liberty messages. They use your money against you. We don't take your money. We're not taxpayer supported. We're supported by viewers and listeners like you. So please check out all of the amazing vitamins and minerals and products and storable foods and all of them at InfoWarsStore.com. Shopping with the good guys, voting with your dollars, so we can be a platform to support others. And if you want to find right at 400 incredible items, the very best health items from the Beyond Tangy Tangerine with the organic certifications, which I personally have gotten and looked at. They just sent me like 10 of them. Each ingredient is actually certified. It's amazing. And hundreds of other great products. The Alex Pack, all of it discounted. Free shipping when you sign up for auto ship. InfoWarsHealth.com. And there's also a toll-free number right there on the site at InfoWarsHealth.com. So you can call and get any of those great products there. 888-789-9277, 888-789-9277, InfoWars Health. You can call there today and get any of your questions answered. And we couldn't have built this independent media operation without you, so thank you for supporting us with your dollars, but even more importantly, your prayers and spreading the word about the radio show, whether you listen on shortwave, over 160 AM and FM stations, XM, over 3 million listeners a day right now. We reach 15 million people a week one way or another through YouTube and Prisonplanet.tv, and we've really got the system concerned, folks. We have a chance to turn this around. The globalist plan is to wreck us so bad, though, as a society, we've got to be collectivized to survive. That's always the Soviet collectivist communist plan. But this is run by banksters. If we can identify them, and if we can show they're the authors of this, then they may actually back off some. But regardless, when we go over the cliff, they will end up being brought to justice. It's so essential right now to point out who's behind this. Now, going back to Jim Rawles, best-selling author, survivalblog.com, you've heard my little rant there about supporting patriots at the local level, the farmer's market, the local machine shops, the local gun shop, authors like yourself. We've got to spend our dollars together That's what we've been taught not to do, and I kind of went off into a rant about that, but isn't that part of what is going to allow patriots, not just here but worldwide, to survive and thrive? Because we are the ones that have predicted what's happening accurately. People are going to look to us as the leaders in the future. That's why Homeland Security is demonizing us, because they know we're the core of the leadership that will lead us out of this.
You're right, Alex. The globalists and banksters are destroying the economy from the top down. It's going to be rebuilt from the bottom up. And that means local economy, things like local farmers markets, local machine shops, local farmers. It's going to be from the bottom up. It's important that people put their money where their mouth is, and that they invest their money in a way where it's not being cycled through Walmart, it's being cycled through their local economy. And also by supporting a few vendors nationally who are part of the solution instead of part of the problem. And I think you're doing a great thing with both alerting people, and your own store carries a lot of products that I think will be very important for people's survival. It's important now. We're at the stage of the game where everyone pretty well knows what's going on, although a few people still need to be woken up. But it's time to stock up and team up and train up. And stocking up means, getting good quality storage food, top quality vitamin and mineral supplements. People need to be ready to hunker down just at the family level for an extended period of time. They'll need water filtration, because you're going to be dealing with water from open sources that's going to be questionable at best. And if we have a grid down collapse, I think it's going to be a public health nightmare. American people are just not used to living without electricity and toilets that don't flush.
I saw a federal study that the majority of the population would die in the U.S. within a year without power because we're so domesticated. You're an expert on this. They're doing a test to turn the power off selectively on the East Coast. Very dangerous. What are some of the scenarios you see that have you so concerned? Because I've been interviewing you for more than 10 years, I guess about 15 years. You didn't used to be so, not letting your face be seen, not being public yourself. I mean, you really in your gut think that there's a bunch of bad scenarios and there's no way out. Am I misstating your position?
No, I think you have it essentially right, Alex. There's a number of scenarios that could lead to the real linchpin being pulled out, and that is America's three power grids: the Eastern grid, the Western grid, and the Texas grid. If the grids go down and don't come back up, we could be in for a horrendous situation. You're right, there could be a huge loss of life. The casualties in the Northeast would be the highest, because not only do you have the highest population density, but you also have a cold climate. And I think the casualties will probably be the lightest in the inland Northwest, where we have a very low population density. So it's important that if people have the chance, that they relocate strategically while they have a chance. One book that I recommend is Joel Skousen's book, Strategic Relocation. He is a wonderful resource on that topic. And of course, it's even if people decide to hunker down right where they are, it's essential that they stock up and be prepared to treat water from open sources. You have to think not just in terms of where you're going to find water, but how are you going to transport it and how you're going to even provide for your security while you're transporting it. There's a whole chain of events that have to take place there to make that happen and have you pull through this situation.
And for those that don't know, Iraq's population tripled under industrialization. After a decade of sanctions, over 1 million people were dead. And we're not trying to fearmonger here. There was a congressional report, I know you know about that, saying that if the power ever went down, they might not be able to get it back on, and that the majority of people would probably end up descending into chaos and dying. I hope that's not the case. But government itself has been digging in like it's the end of the world. How did this mismanagement happen? How did we get to this point, and is there any way to reverse it? Because if the economy continues to degenerate, and then the welfare checks still get issued, but they don't buy as much anymore, and people riot, I mean, what are the scenarios that lead to this collapse you're talking about?
Well, in my opinion, we probably already should have had a collapse. The government was merely able, with the massive bailouts that have taken place and quantitative easing, they basically forestalled the inevitable. And at this point, there's going to be at least a collapse of the dollar. The $64 question is, will there also be a total collapse, a socioeconomic collapse, if the power grids go down? I'm hedging my bets. I've decided that it's important to stock up on storage food and all that, and ammunition, for example, for barter. I'm also hedging my bets by investing fairly heavily in precious metals, specifically silver. It's hard to say which direction this is going to go. At this point, it looks like we'll probably have a deflationary collapse followed immediately by a hyperinflationary collapse. We'll just dig ourselves in deeper. And again, if the power grids go down, all bets are off.
Now, obviously, the establishment has a lot of demographers and statisticians, and they've been engineering an Agenda 21, post-industrial world, shutting down our power plants, shipping our jobs overseas. They believe they're going to use this to take control and finally break us. But I just have looked at all the angles. I don't see that working, and I think they're pretty upset and scared now from what I've been seeing. Every billionaire that I know, and I know a couple or 4 or 5, and people worth hundreds of millions of dollars, big defense contractor families, a lot of other famous people I know, they've all left the United States. They've all left big centers in Europe. They're all trying to move to the countryside and Switzerland and, you know, the Cook Islands out in the Pacific. And then they just say, look, it's all untenable. It's going to collapse. We're going to have a depression like 1929, but this time 90% of us are urban instead of 90% of us being rural. And university studies say, 7 million died of starvation or illnesses related with malnutrition during the Great Depression, that decade-long event. If 7 million died under that, when everybody knew how to skin a buck and run a trot line, and they had gardens in the city, if we have a Great Depression, what will happen?
Oh, we'll see massive depopulation, Alex. I think you're right. There's, with our modern society, we have become, as you put it, so domesticated. People are so dependent upon grid power. They're so dependent upon incredibly long chains of supply. And those chains of supply have been revolutionized by Kanban, just-in-time inventory control, that we've essentially built ourselves a house of cards. And if the rug is pulled out from underneath American society, most people are either going to be incapable or incompetent to get up, brush themselves off, and truck along. That it's just not going to happen. We have a huge number of people that are dependent upon prescription medications, people that are dependent upon diabetic insulin, people that are dependent upon CPAP machines to breathe at night. We have a huge number of people that are on food stamps. The list goes on and on. We have an incredibly dependent society that is essentially incapable of reconstituting itself quickly if the power grids go down for more than a couple of weeks. The loss of life will be absolutely astronomical.
I'm just speechless. Jim Rawles is our guest, best-selling author, probably the top survivalist in the world, not just the U.S., definitely in the top 2 or 3. Very highly respected by not just general public, but the military and many other people follow the information that you break down because it's just down to earth and focused. And it's sad to have to talk about things like this, but if you look at America and the West in general, we are a mess. We live completely unnatural lifestyles. I'm certainly on no high horse. I'm not perfect. But I almost see the establishment with all their prepper shows making jokes out of it and stuff, giving us a backhanded warning and you see the billboards saying, you know, get ready from FEMA, have a 7-day supply of food or water, which is almost like a cynical joke. It's like giving somebody a Band-Aid before you put their head in a guillotine. Do you think they're doing that so they have plausible deniability?
Well, you know, there's some well-intentioned people in government that I'm sure can see what's going to happen, and they're doing their very best to get people prepared. Unfortunately, they aren't running organizations like FEMA. FEMA's main interest is really continuity of government when you come right down to it. That's their main objective. It's not protecting people in the event of disasters. And you're right that by suggesting originally that people be ready for 72 hours, now they're saying more like 7 days, it's still absolutely laughable. It's still not going to be near what will be required to pull through a grid down collapse. And I think that the power grids could go down for any number of reasons. They could go down because of electromagnetic pulse. They could go down because of hacker attacks on the SCADA software that control the power grids. They could go down simply because public utility employees don't feel safe to travel back and forth to work because there's so much rioting and looting going on.
Well, that's been pointed out. Of the hundreds of nuclear reactors in the U.S., most of them don't have their own power. So if everything breaks down, those are then going to melt down and blow up.
I'm afraid they're going to, yes. And the real risk is actually the ponds that they have for the spent fuel more than the reactors themselves. The reactors themselves are fairly well contained, but the spent fuel ponds are just sitting there in open air with just a tin roof over the top. And once the pumps stop circulating water through those cooling ponds for the spent fuel rods, that water is going to very quickly heat up, boil off, and then those cooling ponds at best will just melt down into the ground. But there could be some substantial steam explosions, and we could see a huge amount of radiation released, particularly in the eastern half of the country.
Sure.
It's a
so
very
you
ugly
think
situation, and you're right that the power plants themselves, per the NRC regulations, have to shut down if they don't have a certain level of staffing. And once they do shut down, they're not making their own power, and they're dependent upon grid power to keep those spent fuel ponds cool. We've built ourselves a house of cards.
So the answer is keep the reactors running even if the grid goes down. But the problem is the grid goes down. Where do you ship all that power? It's unbelievable. It is a house of cards. We'll be right back.
An e-cig revolution is sweeping
All right, folks, we're going to open the phones up on any issue you want to discuss in the third hour that's coming up, and I'm going to intersperse it with Obama openly blocking the federal law. I don't know how he does that, to arm al-Qaeda rebels. Because Congress was pointing out what he's doing is illegal. He said, well, I'll just sign an order saying it's okay. Going back to James Wesley Rawles' final segment, he's going to come back when the book actually comes out. Very excited about that. In the 5 minutes we've got left, sir, any other key points you'd like to make? Any other little factoids you'd like to tell people? And if things do start melting down, I mean, obviously, folks better hope they've got plenty of firearms and know how to use them.
Absolutely. And if things melt down literally, like we've been talking about, for anyone under age 40, it's important that they have a supply of potassium iodide or potassium iodate thyroid blockers so they can protect themselves from a radiological event. I think it's really important that at this point, we're at the stage of the game where families need to team up and train up and definitely tool up and stock up. It's time is short, folks. It's essential that you get your beans, bullets, and Band-Aids together, that you get together with like-minded people in your neighborhood, with your church, your local church, your local shooting range, for example, to link up with people and make some contingency plans. And it's very important that everyone have both a plan A and a plan B and a plan C. If you are planning to hunker down, you have to have a plan B to bug out, to get out of Dodge if need be, if it is no longer tenable to stay where you are. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, it's important that if anyone plans to strategically relocate, they need to do that very soon, so that they can be settled in and develop some of those neighborly relationships with their contiguous neighbors and in their community, so that they won't be seen as the expendable new guy.
Where is the safest place in Texas? I mean, I'm told.
I'd say in the Hill Country. Mm-hmm. You're actually in a pretty good place right where you are, Alex. I generally don't like the southern periphery of Texas because of the hurricane risk, and I don't like eastern Texas because of the high population density. And aside from the Hill Country out of Austin, there really isn't that much land that will be viable. So I think you're pretty well located right where you are.
Yeah,
so if I was going to be in Texas, I'd probably be in that region.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to live out further too, but I live right on the edge. But I've got family out further, and that's what Joel Scal's in, and we of course made the film with him, Strategic Relocation, available at InfoWarsStore.com, that gets into all that. And I've actually followed, what I believe is, happening. And I hope somehow by a miracle we avert all this. But mathematically, with the debt and all of it, and 100 million people on food assistance, 49 million on food stamps, and the way everything's going, and the government trying to make things worse, I don't see any other way out of this.
Unfortunately, I think you're right, Alex. I think things are going to have to break down before they're going to get better. And the government has set us up for a huge fall. We really should have seen a deleveraging of debt in 2008, but instead they tried to prop up the system with massive injections of liquidity, essentially pulling money out of thin air.
And more derivatives.
So that when things do fall apart now, it's going to be much, much worse.
And a lot of experts, not just you, are saying middle of next year. That's scary. I hope that's not right. Is there any way out of that?
I'm afraid there isn't, Alex. Buckle your seatbelts, folks.
Wow. Okay, James Wesley Rawles. Folks can visit his website. It's excellent. I visit routinely, survivalblog.com. Look forward to having you back on in October, sir.
Thank you so much, Alex.
All right, there he goes.
God bless you and your listeners.
Thank you. God bless you, too. Man, I wish this stuff wasn't accurate. I just hope there's a way out of this. But Homeland Security's gearing up. We are investigating the theory that showed up in the London Telegraph and other publications from witnesses that Aaron Alexis was fueled by the establishment's race war agenda. And of the 12 victims, it looks like all of them were white, but one black person. And that doesn't confirm the theory. It might have been the black person was a cop or somebody trying to stop him. But this is the type of just you see racial killings happening all over the time, all over the place. And it's like when the Klan goes out and kills black people because they're black. It's all the exact same mindset that's driving it. But regardless, he sure hated those people. I mean, he went and killed them. A mental patient, hearing voices on psychotropics. And so American gun owners get blamed. I want to hear from you on this and a lot more, but the article's up on InfoWars.com. Anthony Gucciardi's working on the whole race angle to see if it's true or not. Aaron Alexis, fueled by the establishment race war. Evidence emerges that alleged shooter was motivated by racial discrimination among media race baiting. So that article is up on InfoWars.com. And again, we're going to continue to add to that as more comes out. Now, there's a lot of other news I haven't gotten to yet. And we're going to be breaking down the latest on Obamacare and drunk pigs that then attack cows. Funny news story I found out there we're going to break down. Also, federal government routinely hires internet trolls, shills, to monitor chat rooms, disrupt article comment sections, Natural News. Jonathan Benson, naturalnews.com, reporting on that. That's up on Infowars.com. And it dovetails with Paul Watson's article last year about Pentagon hires army of PSYOP trolls. But this is a new development picked up by CTV Television News is reporting on it. So we're going to be getting into that. And I've got a bunch of clips as well that we have not gotten into yet that I want to cover. UN strongly suspicious that Syrian rebels use sarin gas in one clip. In another clip, the UN strongly suspects were saying they thought it could have been the Syrians. So this is all over the map. We're going to be looking at that report as well. coming up, and we're going to give out the toll-free number. The toll-free number to join us is 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. For any subject you want to discuss, wide open phones. But we better be getting the news out there that this guy was under psychiatric care and on drugs, and that he was hearing voices, and then he got through 2 checkpoints and was still able to attack people. I don't get why these guys are always so dumb. Why don't they go to an off-base bar that's frequented by everybody? I mean, I don't want to give them ideas, but why do they always want to go to the zone? Because they know nobody's got guns in there but a few police. That's why. We just answered their question. You get into the perimeter, you are in a sitting duck zone. I mean, why can you trust police to have guns in the police department, but you can't trust the military to have guns? Well, some of them are on psychotropics and are mentally ill. That's why they don't. That's why the Secretary of Defense, the last 2, won't get around troops with guns. I'm not really agreeing with them, but that's why they're scared. They know what they've done to these people. They know what they've engaged in. They know what they've basically carried out. They are absolutely, totally, and fully aware of it. So we're going to discuss all that. 800-259-9231. And I'll come back and go right to your calls at the bottom of the hour. Then I'll get into all the news that I just mentioned and any new developments as well. But there's the headlines up on Infowars.com. Aaron Alexis fueled by the establishment race war. Newsflash for Piers Morgan, AR-15 not used in Navy Yard massacre. D.C. Democrat Navy Yard shooting due to guns loose in society. Really? What about all the guns you got? AP published story day before Navy Yard shootings debunked. A very important video by Paul Joseph Watson. Was Navy Yard killer on antidepressant meds? The answer is yes now. Washington Navy Yard gunman obsessed with violent video games. That's all up on Infowars.com. Folks, we're now well into the 3rd hour of this worldwide broadcast. We'll be back tonight, 7 o'clock Central with Infowars Nightly News. Find showtimes, listings, and more at prisonplanet.tv. And now we're opening the phones up in this hour to talk about another serotonin reuptake inhibitor, psychiatric person hearing voices with a top national security clearance, high-level national security clearance, inside a secure base in a gun-free zone, except for police, killing people, and it looks like it was racially motivated. There's some evidence leaning towards that. We're investigating it right now. And we've got the usual suspects, Chucky Schumer, Dianne Feinstein, Barack Obama, Jay Carney, and all these other people running around blaming gun owners, saying, see, we told you so. You did it again, like Kerry. You need to back al-Qaeda rebels? Or any new deaths are your fault. Or there's ever another shooting of a child, it's your fault, America. That's the authoritarians telling you that you're guilty for what somebody else does. And we're like, hey, gun crime is down 49% in the last 20 years. Justice Department numbers. I don't want to hear that, racist. NRA's racist. It's the new Klan. Actually, the NRA was founded to train Northerners how to shoot, particularly black folks. And the Klan was anti-gun. Shut up, racist. Again, reality is under attack by the politically correct because they're authoritarians. They want to control what we say, what we do. They're not liberals. And if the Republicans were in power trying to take my rights, I'd come out against them like I did with Bush. I'm on record. But I'm telling you, not a lot of stuff sneaks up on me, but I thought, I was like, look, I know Obama's advisors are globalist. They're just like Bush's advisors, but I said, he's got to do something good on war, getting a peace prize. He's got to do something with all these claims. And he is the biggest liar president. He makes Nixon and Clinton look like good guys. He makes them look like St. John or something. I mean, he is just, he sits there and goes, 80 to 90% support this gun bill. Actually, 70% were against the major polls. And no one thinks the rebels launched a chemical attack. The UN's come out now and said most of the evidence points towards the rebels. I haven't even gotten to that report yet. Some nerve gas attacks, they say, might be the government. I mean, it's just bizarre. Everything Obama says, I will not raise your payroll taxes, any of your taxes, raises them. I will not hire any lobbyists, does nothing but hire them. I will not have any Monsanto lobbyists, hires the head of it to run things. I will have GMOs labeled, works to block it. I will decriminalize marijuana, makes it more illegal than anybody in the last 30 years. Triple the raids on dispensaries. On and on and on and on and on and on and on. And I thought it'd just be meet the new boss, same as the old boss. I'm here to tell you. You know, we've sold T-shirts with George W. Bush on it saying he was a horrible fascist. And I got to tell you, folks, he would have been just as bad as Obama if he could get away with it. And that's the difference. And these Democrats, I saw this congresswoman out of D.C., someone calling for our guns to be taken a few weeks ago. Got the clip right here of her saying it. She came out and said, you know, I'm just going to support this war on Syria just because I'm going to be loyal to Obama. Why don't you just line up then the Christians and shoot them yourself, lady? It's just disgusting. Representative Eleanor Holmes. I mean, what a group of Fruit Loops, ladies and gentlemen. What a group of sickos. Absolute sickos.
Congressman, you compared this to 9/11. Why does it compare to 9/11? What does that mean to you?
Well, only in the number of victims. It doesn't compare. Apparently, there's no indication that this was a terrorist event. But I hope we all understand that with all these guns loose in the society, it doesn't take a terrorist to do what was done here today, to despoil the reputation of this rising neighborhood that is now surrounded by newly built homes and facilities, and I think will continue to thrive. So I hope this doesn't take from what has been one of the most secure
that's enough.
facilities in Washington.
And we've got Marines running around with M16s to stop the bad guy because the guns aren't the problem, it's the person in control of them. And I know you know that as an audience, but folks, we're beginning to win the fight for the Second Amendment, which means they may go for it all right now because they're losing. They may tump over the chessboard. We need to triple intensify the war for the Second Amendment. Even if you don't own guns, people are recognizing that it's a linchpin. Just like they're going after free speech and states' rights and the family, they're going after everything right now. The freedom of the press, and then calling it press protection to not protect bloggers and give them First Amendment protection. And then the media, the mainstream media goes, oh, Drudge is wrong. He says it's fascism to do this. There's already protections of sources. Obama's illegally gone over that. Then they pass a law saying, oh, well, we'll selectively protect them, but then actually even waters down what mainline reporters get. They will call a power grab the opposite. They'll call the Patriot Act patriotic. They'll call the Affordable Care Act affordable when it doubles premiums on average. It is not the Affordable Care Act. I know I'm screaming, excuse me. It makes me mad. It's Orwellian. Up is down, down is up, black is white, white is black. NRA founded to stop the Klan. Fox says it's for the Klan. I mean, everything is the opposite of what it really is. I'm sick of it. And watching that slime bag Obama and his camp followers, knowing they're crushing the country, doubling black unemployment since he got in office, wrecking the industry, shutting everything down. And then MSNBC gets up there and says, we'll tell you who's at fault, racist crackers. And it's Michael Moore using that term and saying it's racist whites that have their guns because they're scared of black people. Injecting race, race, race until people think, well, I'm going to go out and shoot some white people. We know it's been happening a lot. Yeah, let's just shoot this baseball player from Australia in the back because he's white. And, you know, let's have a gang initiation. It's wrong when Hispanics in L.A. have gang initiations killing blacks. You know, that's going on. But, see, nobody cares because that's Hispanic on black or whatever. It's all about, there's Michael Moore, 90% of guns owned by scared white people. There's the quote from March 24th of this year. Let's go to your phone calls as promised. David, Andy, Joe, Chris, RB, and others. Toll-free number to join us, 800-259-9231. Let's go ahead and talk to David in Missouri. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Thank you, Alex. I have a call to action, and I hope this makes sense. But there are two things that I think are the most important things we can do, and I hope everybody listening calls their congressman. We have to reinstate Glass-Steagall Act, and we have to impeach Obama. And if we do those two things, many, many of these problems are going to evaporate. And I hope that all of your listeners really look into what the Glass-Steagall Act, why it was put in place, and what it will do to Wall Street and to these bankers and how it will put a halt to so many different things. But all these issues that we're always talking about and getting very fired up about, all very important, but they mean nothing if we don't stop these bankers in Wall Street and if we don't get Obama out of office.
Sir, I am absolutely 100% in agreement with you. We should get behind Congressman Walter Jones's legislation to impeach Obama for launching all these wars without congressional authorization. Boom, it's open and shut. And that sends a message to all these globalists. And then everything Obama's done gets thrown into question and discredited legislatively and executively if he's impeached. And then we can repeal a bunch of this, including Obamacare. He should be impeached for Obamacare that raises payroll taxes on basically anybody working. And all the other, it's 8 taxes on poor people. And folks, I've got a lot of family, a lot of them veterans, you name it, who are getting paid, you know, $12 an hour. They got college degrees, you name it. They can't find jobs like everybody else out there. And they can't even pay for the gas to get to work. And they're running up their credit cards, and they haven't gone on welfare yet. But the system basically wants to force everybody onto welfare. And that's what's going on. So get behind Congressman Walter Jones's impeachment legislation. And at the same time, get behind a major drumbeat to hold people accountable. And even if Obama's a puppet, it signifies that we're awake. And repeal the repeal. So reinstate the Glass-Steagall Act and other laws that don't allow investment banks to create unlimited derivatives and then hold us hostage to bail them out. Absolutely, sir.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Jones also is trying to get, and I know you've talked about this, but the 28 pages regarding the 9/11 cover-up, which we all think, I'm fairly sure, that this is going to expose the whole Saudi kingdom relationship to the British Empire and their funding of the 9/11 attacks. And I'm almost positive that Walter Jones is aware of this. And
well, the congressman is finally on tomorrow. I was going to have him on last week, but that fell through. He's on tomorrow, and we'll bring it all up. I appreciate your call. You know, here's the thing. I don't think we can tell who was behind the 9/11 attacks. I've tried to explain this to people, and I am known as the father of the 9/11 truth movement. And because I'm the first person before it happened and after to come out and say it's an inside job, and I believe they'll launch a bio attack to distract, I said it on 9/11, away from this. They always commit another couple crimes. It's like bank robbers will set fires on one end of town before they rob the bank. Or they'll have a fake robbery at one to rob the big one across town. Well, when they do a big stage terror, they'll do something after it to then divert onto that. I've learned how they operate. And even 13 years ago or 12 years ago, I understood this stuff. And my gut just told me that. We know the official story isn't true. Okay, we know that. We know that. That's incontrovertible. They blew up Building 7. NORAD stood down. There was insider trading. There was a lot of stuff going on. And I'm not defending the Queen of England. My goodness, the Queen of England herself doesn't really run anything. She just owns it and is like the, you know, like the vestigial dropping at the middle of it all. But, yeah, British intelligence is as slick and sneaky as it gets. And you notice they were against the strike on Syria because they don't want to commit suicide.
It's hurricane and wildfire season again. Why do thousands...
All right, we'll stop the sing-along. It's like those old cartoons, the bouncing ball goes over the thing, but I'll start making up ridiculous lyrics. You know, Dave Mustaine is the consummate perfectionist. You know, after his concerts, he goes and practices. Every time I've seen him play, he goes in on the bus and starts practicing any little part he thinks he messed up. I'm telling you, every concert I've ever been in, he is the best live and blows away the competition. Iron Maiden was okay, but it was like Megadeth was so loud last week they were here. It was just perfect, and then they turned it up when Iron Maiden went on. And I was like, wow, I can't even hear this. But side issue, different venues are different. I don't know why I just went off into a jag about that. Just making excuses for why I'm singing along to Dave Mustaine and Megadeth. Let's go ahead and talk to Andy in Idaho, then Joe, Chris, RB, and others. Andy, thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Hey, Alex, I just want to say that you're a true patriot, and you woke my eyes up about 4 years ago.
Well, my friend, I've got to get people away because we're all in this together. God bless you.
Yeah, and I also want to say is that I'm a Call of Duty player, but I don't play 16, 12 hours a day like the shooters at the naval base.
Well, I'm not judging. I played video games. I played Donkey Kong and Super Mario Brothers and all that stuff when I was a kid. You know, and I mean, I'll tell you, I should have been out playing sports. We'd sit there for like 5 hours on Saturdays, eating Hot Pockets, picking our noses and playing video games and learning how to cheat the game. You know, the special, you jump underneath that thing and it hits and you get hundreds of lives or whatever. What's the Mario Brother world where you go through the whole world and you jump on top of the turtle shells and all that? My only issue is now these are like real military games and they're really being used for recruiting. The Pentagon admits that. But I mean, so what's your take on it, Andy? I'm kind of talking about Donkey Kong.
It's all good, man. My take on it is, you know, if you play video games, don't play them all day long. I went out yesterday and I went for a hike. It was beautiful. Took my new backpack out with my hydration.
And you murdered two hikers. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
With a hatchet.
But no, it was my concealed weapons permit handgun.
Just joking. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm being sarcastic.
I know you are. That's what I like about you. You got a warped sense of humor like I do. So.
You got to have one nowadays or go completely insane. No, I mean, there are people, though, that just obsess all day with shooting humans, and they really want to do it. There is a certain percentage does join the military because they want to be able to legally kill people. It's a very small minority, but that's who they're looking for a lot of times. And a lot of times you get somebody that's already like that. They go through Marine Corps boot camp where it's training to take a nice guy and make them kill people, and it's, you've got to hone your skills to be a killer and murder everybody, murder. And you get somebody who's already inclined to be a psycho, it may push them over the edge, and now you're dealing with Freddy Krueger. You see what I'm saying?
Well, it's also funny because when you get into some of these rooms and stuff like that, these kids are very serious about the game. So if you shoot them up, if you kill one of them while they're playing, they get all frustrated and all mad, and sometimes they, what you call rage quit, is they're so mad because you killed them, they rage quit. And I think that's one of the things.
What is a rage? What is a ragey, pagey? What is it called?
It's called a rage quit.
A rage quit?
Because what they do is they think they're better than you, and then when you shoot them, they get all mad. That was a BS call. But I just think it's funny, and then I don't deal with it. I shut off the video game and go.
Oh, no, I've heard about in the news people that are playing video games against each other, they'll go meet and get in a fight over it or kill each other or whatever. And people have robbed so they can buy the imaginary goods in the imaginary world. I don't know. I want to learn how to master the real world for my family and for them to have a future, not to live in these simulated worlds. But I get it. I mean, it's video games are fun. I mean, I go to the video game place and play shoot 'em up and stuff. And we've got a Wii. We get it out maybe once a month and play the hunting game, or we play the golf. You know, the golf game.
We're on the march. The Empire's on the...
There. Buckaroo Banzai, the Overthruster. That's a good B movie right there. They got space aliens running the defense contractor company. The generals show up and goes, I want my stealth bomber. And that came out before the stealth bomber was even out. Oh, that was a good movie. We are back live, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we are taking your phone calls here in just a moment. Some of the breaking news up on prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com today. 15-year-old jailed for simulating shooting with iPhone app. That's right, he tried to make a video game. Actually need to hire that kid, where it is a simulation shooter game. And so for building his own video game, he was arrested. In an incident predating yesterday's Navy Yard shooting, a student in Louisiana was arrested and charged with terrorizing for simulating shooting classmates using an iPhone app. And he got the classmates to take part in it so he could shoot a promo for it. As ridiculous as that sounds, it's true. As reported by ABC News affiliate WGNO News, an unnamed 15-year-old student was booked and jailed after uploading footage to YouTube from an augmented reality iPhone app called The Real Strike. By the way, those are super popular on YouTube. I see a lot of people that create their own first-person shooter game. It's total art, total First Amendment, totally protected. Bare minimum in this charged-up society, the cops say, so your friends, you're like a filmmaker, you made an app. Wow, really interesting. So you're in the drama department? Okay. Not planning anything. Okay, thank you. But you see reports where people write stuff for their English class. In one case, they were battling zombies at the high school using fictitious names. It wasn't even the same high school. They arrested him. His grandparents who were raising him reported the honor student. And the grandma was in the news going, well, it's better that he be jailed than plan anything. And it was like, but he wasn't planning anything. So this is how it works. Meanwhile, the reported shooter, Aaron Alexis from D.C. Naval Yard, he'd shot up reportedly people's tires that parked in his parking space. Unbelievable. Right there, boom, felony. No more firearms. He had shot through his neighbor's wall telling him shut up. And he got kicked out of the Navy for that, but then rehired with a security clearance to work in the Marines area on different weapon systems. So that's what went on here. And there's a slight chance, 5% chance he could have been a mind control patsy or wound up or something. I don't think that's what happened here because he's on the drugs, he's hearing voices. It's just another example of how screwed up this government is. I mean, it's coming out all the time where almost every TSA supervisor is a defrocked priest or a convicted child molester and then get caught doing it again and again and again. So it's really disgusting to have all this going on. And it reminds me of the kid in Austin, Texas a few months ago that got arrested playing video games and made a joke threat. Teen who made video game comment is now being beat up in jail. $500,000 bail ensures boy remains in prison facing 10 years. The father of Justin Carter, the teen accused of making terroristic threats on Facebook, told NPR's Morning Edition that his son is presently getting beat up, treated horribly in the Comal County Jail in Texas, where he's being held. And it just goes on. Yeah, jail is not a fun place. So there you go. So play all the video games you want if Bill Gates puts them out or if some other big company, Microsoft. But you make a thing with the drama department of a shoot 'em up, you're going to go to jail. So this is the new political correctness. Let's go to Joe in Arizona. Let's move quick through calls. There's some other news I want to hit. Joe, thank you for calling in, sir.
Alex, how are you?
I'm pretty good, buddy.
All right. Listen, first of all, I want you to know that you're not the real Paul Revere. You are the George Washington of the InfoWar. We love you out here.
Well, believe me, I know a lot about George Washington, and I don't think I'm anywhere near George Washington. I might come up to George Washington's knee. But someday I might come up to him eye to eye, but I don't think so.
I wanted to bring up this point because I haven't heard anyone touch on it yet. The old Rahm Emanuel quote, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Yes, sir.
We had the shooting yesterday, and all of a sudden the executive order goes through. As far as Obama's immunity with sending weapons over to Syria. Now, is that to avoid war crimes?
Well, that's right. In fact, we said this yesterday, and we said this weeks ago. They need a bunch of distractions off of the fact that they're arming the rebels and that it's illegal. And Congress was starting to point this out. So, I'll do an executive order saying that we can violate the importation ban on weapons to groups even affiliated. Under the NDAA, if you give money to a charity unknowingly that then gives money to a terrorist-affiliated group, you disappear forever. Now, that is really creepy and unconstitutional and out of control. I mean, if you're a known terrorist and they say they're going to disappear you without the proof of the trial, it's horrible. But we're talking about just off with your head, disappearing into the dungeon from the days of Robin Hood. And yeah, here's the article. Obama waives ban on arming terrorists to allow aid to Syrian opposition. President Obama waived a provision of federal law, boy, he's God, designed to prevent the supply of arms to terrorist groups to clear the way for the U.S. to provide military assistance to vetted opposition groups fighting Syrian dictator. You mean slaughtering all the Christians? Always make it about Assad. The thing is, Assad didn't start the fight. He was democratizing. This is a war crime. Any other points, sir?
Yeah, just one other point. I thought you got a kick out of this. I was taking a flight out of JFK, and out of all the things in my luggage bag, my carry-on, I got stopped for the tangy tangerine.
Oh, my goodness. How evil. What did they think it was?
I am so evil. I don't know, but it took about 20 minutes, and they put it through the scanner like 10 times. I can't even drink it now.
You know, I don't think the scanner would actually damage it that much. You got to really cook something to ruin it, but it probably had some effect on the molecular makeup of it. It's the continued radiating over your life that adds to your overall radiation dose level. But you're right. Look, the big thing is they save the photos and they make fun of people's genitals. And that's now been confirmed. And you know, if I'm going to, I mean, not that I'm good looking, but, you know, Playgirl has not contacted me to pose nude. And, of course, I wouldn't do it. I'm being sarcastic, folks. The point is, you need to be paid for that. It needs to be, you know, free will. I mean, they've had TSA people in the U.S. and England print off naked shots of women and men and run over and say, please sign this. That's how mentally ill these people are. Because a lot of them take the job to have power over people. There it is, 100 body scans from security checkpoint, leaked pictures. And keep scrolling down. It'll show some more of the photos. So what did they think it was?
They took the tangy tangerine, and I honestly just sat there. I was just dumbfounded. I couldn't believe it, and I was basically going to miss my flight if I put up a stink. But they definitely took their time sending it through, and it was unopened, of all things.
Well, God bless you, sir. Good to hear you, and I appreciate you calling. Good points. By the way, the TSA and courthouses have leaked over and over again naked body images with them de-resed so that everybody doesn't get upset, and then they'll release these blobbed ones. What they really look like is what we've got on screen right now for TV viewers. Those are real ones right there. Okay? And it is 100%. You can see every single detail. Okay? And then they lie and say, oh, well, we see a de-resed version. No, that's pure bull, and it's come out. It's pure, unmitigated, absolute, unadulterated propaganda. That's one of the oldest tricks in the books, is to leak something yourself. All right, let's, you know what? I'm going to plug some stuff here and then go back to your call since he mentioned Beyond Tangy Tangerine. I got a call last week from one of my friends saying, hey, I'd like to see the certification on Beyond Tangy Tangerine. I mean, we go to Whole Foods, they just say something's organic. So I called the company and had them send me more than a dozen certifications. It was more than that. It was page after page. And I was so impressed that they didn't just get the entire product certified. They had each and every ingredient certified. The truth is, the old Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the formulators and the company told me, was almost completely organic, non-GMO. But they hadn't had it all individually certified because it had so many ingredients. So it took them 2 years. They had it all certified, incredible cost, to have one of the only multi-powder things out there that is certified non-GMO, organic. And it's all available at InfoWarsHealth.com with the biggest discounts. You can get 10% off on things like the ProPure water filtration systems at InfoWars store.com, but at InfoWarsHealth.com, we have the giant catalog of amazing longevity products, the lowest prices. You can sign up for free shipping when you order online. You can also sign up at InfoWarsHealth.com to be a distributor for $10, one-time fee like Costco or whatever, and get even bigger discounts. And you can also set up your own at-home business. A lot of folks have done this. It's not designed as a stay-at-home business. That's the model they've used in 16 years to sell it and promote it, but it is a great stay-at-home business. But that's it's not so much vestigial, it's more just a side thing. But it's a great thing to do. They got great brochures and literature. They can set you up your own website, InfoWarsHealth.com, InfoWarsTeam.com. You can give them a call, our great team, and ask about any of the different products or questions or order over the phone. 888-789-9277, 888-789-9277. And there's another big fringe benefit. This is great products at great prices that funds our operations so we can get up here and defend the Second Amendment and defend property rights and defend homeschooling and get Congressman Walter Jones on to push impeachment tomorrow and expose that the rebels really launched a chemical attack. We routinely break stuff that is now international news. That is established, and that is admitted by even dinosaur media. And so I've had a lot of top experts I concur with tell me the way you stay alive and the way you stay not destroyed is get bigger. Get big or get eaten. Big fish eat little fish. And I'm a big fish for liberty now, and I need to get a lot bigger because, boy, I'm swimming in oceans where I'm like 10 feet long, folks. There's 100-foot long, 200-foot long megalodons in these waters. And I'm fast like a bluefin tuna and aggressive, folks. Kind of like a cross between a bluefin tuna and a swordfish or a marlin. But, you know, I need your help because I'm in some dangerous waters. And I'm trying to protect all the little minnows out there as we're all in this together. But we are definitely going in like X-Wings against the Death Star, starting our trench run right now. And I need you to go to InfoWarsStore.com, the incredible lowest price, best shortwave radios at the lowest prices there, blows away Radio Shack, you name it, the prices we got. The solar-powered systems, just hundreds and hundreds of amazing items. InfoWarsStore.com, the little mini cook stoves, the storable foods. It's all at InfoWarsStore.com or InfoWarsHealth.com to find the Pollen Burst Plus that's so amazing and so much more. All right, let's go back to your phone calls. Here as promised. I'm just going in order. Let's move quick now. Chris in Florida, thanks for calling, sir.
Yes. Hey, Alex, first-time caller. I'm a long-time listener. I wanted to speak about Aaron Alexis. Now, he's the person that has killed 12 other people in D.C.
Well, I'm still saying it's alleged, and it could be a setup, but it's not a very... They weren't really... It doesn't have all the signs of a staged event. It still could be, but probably just a Prozac head. Sorry, go ahead.
Right, not a problem. Now, how is the mainstream media going to spin this? Because now you have a person on psychotropic drugs. Now they're pushing this racism agenda on the mainstream media. Now, how does this go and coincide with the Adam Lanza event, with the Virginia Tech shooting? Are they just pulling out people like of all races, types, and deals to just put these, these events into play? So now they can come and go the day before Associated Press.
Well, I'll say this. The D.C. shooter looked like it was a setup. This doesn't look like it's a setup so much because I don't see all the telltale signs. But I don't know. But when the whole race thing is meant to be white people are racist only because they're the biggest minority. It's a nation of minorities now. Whites are like 40-something% of the population. It's going to be like 30. It's the death of the West. It's on record. So don't worry. All evil will soon leave the world when all whites are dead, according to the media. But whites politically have been seen as dominant. So the Democratic Party can play a class struggle thing, saying whites inherently cheated you somehow. Okay? And create gang politics. And then that adds to already unstable people. Well, we'll just go out and shoot some crackers because, they all deserve it. To get folks back for Trayvon. There's been undoubted killings of whites all over the country because they're just white. And it's very, very sad. It's kind of like some black folks drug an old white man to death about a year after they drug a black guy to death in outside of Vidor, Texas. They're in Klan country. That is absolute Klan white trash country there. Not indicting everybody that lives down there, but that's definitely something out of Deliverance. Well, that's me to the folks in Deliverance. The point is that it is amazing. White people. I mean, I've been down in those areas, folks, in a town outside Vidor where that happened, and I've had white people walk over and say, we don't like Yankees around here. to me. When I was in high school, I've been to areas in East Texas, and it's not all areas. It's like certain little enclaves, like gangs. They get in a little nest, come over to me at a city pool, actually in the summer when I was visiting friends, and say, you're from Dallas, you are a damn Yankee and need to get out of here. And I, of course, laughed at them. It was teenagers. I mean, I'm now digressing. The point is it's race politics, because they don't want to debate issues and how we can all be unified around Bill of Rights, Constitution, due process. They want it all to be about what group you're in. I'm lesbian. I'm gay. I'm straight. I'm a Muslim. I'm a video game person. I'm black. And it just all becomes, and then you can't criticize anything those groups are doing. Like, man, look at that guy. He looks like a degenerate thug. Well, don't be racist. He's black. Well, I'd say that if he was white. I mean, you know, you see some guy who looks like a gang member, you know, whatever, then you just say, looks like a thug. Don't say that. That's racist. Well, just because the thug's black? Appreciate your call. All right, I'm sorry. I'm in a good mood today. I don't know why I'm in a good mood. I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick booty. And I'm all out of booty. All right, let's go ahead and take a ring-a-dingy. RB in Texas. Come on in, you Yankee.
Yeah, that was a terrible cliche. Terrible.
How's it going, brother?
All right, boss. Hey, I've been trying to get hold of you for a minute. I want to introduce you to a person that has sacrificed the last 30 years of his life to research and document a solution to what is going on in the world, including traveling to Jerusalem and Egypt and doing all of the in-depth study.
Wow.
But because we do not trust the electronic transfers of information, we'd like to set up a meeting with you to deliver the initial correspondence of a letter of introduction.
Take me to your leader. I am Guac from the planet Snibble Snapper. Well, you know, sir, I'm not trying to poo-poo what you're saying. I don't trust a lot of electronic stuff either, but I almost look at it like, you know what, we're just in their face, flying our colors openly. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time to meet with people. You ought to just mail me a letter with the info, but just give us the gist of the Rosetta Stone of information awakening that you've discovered buried in the alluvial sands of the Nile Delta.
Well, we were part of a Peruvian flute band, and we discovered the mechanical orchestration of perceivable existence.
That sounds like it has a alignment with the supersedable, triumphant ostrich.
Perhaps. It's all explained biblically. The solution is nonviolent. It's all biblically sound. And
well, let me be honest. I'm a fan of Peruvian flute music. I really am. I've heard it a few times. Down here in Texas, there's folks from Peru all over the place. You hear them sometimes playing downtown. Tell me the secret then. What did you discover?
I'm not qualified because it's not...
Show me the map. Return what you have stolen from me.
Right. We are going to be headed down there Thursday, and we will definitely drop you off.
Return the map. Return what you have stolen. All right, brother, I understand you're heading down here, but I may not be here. I may be fishing with my son or something. Listen, I appreciate you. God bless you. Mail me a letter, sir. Let me give you how you can hang out with us on a realm of information. P.O. Box 19549, Austin, Texas 78760. P.O. Box 19549, Austin, Texas 78760. And by the way, if you're a new listener, they'll probably have the New York Times, everybody else have a story out today, or Media Matters, that I was believing that I had Peruvian flute bands and we were connected to aliens. That was all satire. That was all a joke. The caller was not satire. The caller may actually be the ambassador from Planet Pop-Tart, and I've just insulted them. Ambassador, allow me to apologize to you. I, too, am from another planet. Welcome. All right, a little addendum here of overdrive for some folks tuning in. I I get a little dingy towards the end of the 3 hours. Every once in a while, I'll start screwing around, and then the caller was bringing up some pretty interesting stuff. I couldn't tell if it was a prank call or not, so I started riffing off of that. And for that, I apologize. We have a lot of serious stuff going on in the world, but I was just having too much fun with it. But I did tell the guys, go out of this segment with Peruvian flute music if they can find it. Let's talk to Roger in Mississippi. Roger, you are on the air. Welcome.
Hey, Alex. My name is Roger. I live here in Mississippi. Just moved here about a year ago from St. Louis. I'm a veteran, 100% disabled. And, you know, the VA system that we have is what everyone's going to end up with under Obamacare.
That's right. That's on record. It's absolutely horrible.
Right. And I believe Congress should not give themselves something better than they're willing their veterans to have.
Yeah, in fact, I want a federal law. In fact, Ron Paul pushed one where the Congress cannot exempt itself from stuff. Boy, that'd be a good place to start. I mean, that's how disconnected from reality things have gotten. That they're arming al-Qaeda publicly and just changed federal law to do it with an executive order, and Congress exempts itself from everything. I mean, it's a joke.
Giving money and fighting with al-Qaeda, I thought that's who the enemy was. You know? 15
I hear you.
years or how long we've been fighting. And now we're giving them money. And leaving our soldiers behind, like in Benghazi.
Well, why don't you apologize for not supporting al-Qaeda to the government? Like, you're an extremist, sir. How dare you be so extreme?
Well, you know, I'm sorry. I was raised here in this country. And
racist. Folks, this caller is racist against al-Qaeda.
Was my duty to do, and now we're giving them money and leaving our men behind.
Well, that's what because the globalists are criminals and hate this country. And they have a vulgar term for it, but it's what a dog does when it hikes its leg on something to mark territory. We are being softened up. We are being demoralized. We're being taught that we are the lowest filth of the earth. God bless you, sir. Good points. Final caller. Sorry to the others. We got time to go to Jess in Connecticut. You're on the air, sir. Welcome.
Alex, how you doing?
Doing all right.
2 points. What we think needs to be done here is a reset, an entire reset. I mean, when England was put together, they did okay. We put ourselves together off of England. I think we did a better job. Now it's time for a reset. We're too deep in the rabbit hole. This thing has gone absolutely 180 degrees.
Oh, no, I agree. And the reset's going to be an organized collapse because they're already collapsing it, and then they're going to pose as saviors. So the number one job is expose the globalists so people know they're the authors of this mess.
Right. That's one point. The other point is, you know, there are 108 different citations or instructions in the Quran that explicitly state that they are supposed to kill the infidel, the non-believers. So, and these are open-ended. They're not tied to any dates or reference points like the Bible. Now, I'm not defending the Bible at all, but I'm just saying that they have open-ended instructions. Now, this is a recipe for disaster. This is a recipe. So, well,
it is true that the Quran says do that, but it also says live at peace with the Gentiles and the Jews, you know, at certain points. So it's I'm not defending, you know, interpretations of that, but it is true the government's trying to fund as much as they can radical elements of Islam to let it take over with the clash of civilizations. And undoubtedly the al-Qaeda people our government are funding do believe anybody that is not part of their sect of radical Islam need to have their heads chopped off. And our government is backing them. Here's some beautiful pipes taking us out, ladies and gentlemen, until this evening, 7 o'clock Central, InfoWars Nightly News. If you have a membership, please share it.